the magical sound people and the man who makes all this possible, her wilderness team, if you will. And I guess to start things off, I'm curious. You've always had this vision of other elements of your film, the artistic side maybe. What does sound mean for you in film? Because there does seem to be little nuances that you add so much into sound, and where did that come from?
Yeah, I think for me the important thing is in a movie is to try to like know when everyday sounds need to be emphasized. But for me, working with Ben, one of the things we played with, there's a lot of, I think you can tell a story through a lot of off-screen noise. And just as much as you can say something with bursts of loud noise, you can also do something with the absence of sound or the lack of sound. So I'm always curious about how much you can strip away, but still give a feeling of sound, even though it may feel like there's nothing in the air. This filmmaker, Robert Bresson, used to do this thing where, like, in moments of action, somebody would just be in a kitchen, like, cutting tomatoes, but then, like, at the right moment, that one knife going down that tomato would be jacked up in sound. So you would suddenly have this impactful moment, but it's just somebody cutting tomatoes, but it really unnerves you in a really weird way. And so we tried to play with that, at least in a lot of my movies, and especially with Her Wilderness, with, like, playing with how much can we have fun with sound and say something about the mood, you know.
Yeah, and here's the wonderful thing about Frank's film. It's a piece of art. So I'm a commercial engineer a lot of times, and so I'm used to cramming every single moment with as much as I can. And it's so nice to work with air and openness on scenes, because even in the movies that are out today, they're crammed full of material, you know, they really are. And so this is why Her Wilderness is considered art, you know, because it lets it breathe, and everything has a pulse, just like music has a pulse, and the earth and the world and the rhythm, everything has a rhythm to it, and this movie has a rhythm to it, and Frank found it. And it's a really cool thing for to be able to work on something that is on a level of rhythm and art, and so that's what he was allowed, and he allowed that for the openness of that, which so many movies don't, you know, so much film doesn't, you know. So
this project took some time.
It did.
You guys had to really get to know each other and know going in you're going to spend years making this.
Yeah.
What was that process like, and how did you keep going?
Frank is an extremely patient person. That's the nicest thing I can say. That's not true. He's well, Frank. I mean, this has been Frank's baby for years. So
yeah, well, you know, I appreciate. For me, it was just finding the somebody that got it. And as soon as Ben and I started talking about the film, he watched it first, and then I told him what I was after. And I think once he knew what I was after, all these ideas from Ben just kind of came into fruition that I thought were great. Like what I brought up in the Q&A was he had the idea about this bird that we just hear, we never see, sonically pulling Riley's character through the woods, like toward her final destination. And that was all Ben, and because he really got into like what we were trying to do with sound. And he's so talented and professional and incredible that there's some things that I was even like, is that possible? Can we even do that? And Ben's like, of course we can do it. Let me show you. And I mean, he's total pro. He's incredible. He was so much fun to work with. He made working with him so easy. And what I loved about him too is that we would just experiment and try stuff, because again, this is an art film project we're doing together. We're not trying to race to make a deadline, and so for us, we're like, well, let's try this out. If it doesn't work, we'll come back in 2 weeks and we'll look at it again. And that's how we kind of went about working. So it was a lot more collaborative and open to kind of work that way.
Also, let me add, I was actually on the set of the shooting of this, and at the time I was thinking to myself, I don't think he knows what I do for a living. I was just like, I think I could do this, man. I know I could do this. I didn't say anything, so it came up. It came up organically later, but I do remember that while they were shooting Riley's parts, and I was like, you know what I do for a living, right? So, but again, a great guy to work with.
I'm curious, what was it like being able to work, Riley's portion especially, it takes place in the wilderness. It is the natural element of the film. What was it like being a part of that? You guys do capture so many little nuances of the natural world, but you don't want it to come across like that. You want it to be natural.
And that's also where Clint's music really creates the mood, you know, and at that point I'm just you know, I just don't want to interfere, you know. So
oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the idea was that all the adult scenes, it's almost like the music was the voice of Riley, because Riley never speaks. So that was her voice, was Clint's music through all her scenes. But the adult scenes didn't have the music, because for us, we wanted that to have a more somber, hardened in reality world, where it's just normal everyday sounds: rain, cooking eggs, dripping, you know, in a room, and like just simple little sounds. Whereas with Riley's world, it's almost like this xylophone fairy tale that's been smashed in half, and it's like still trying to play at certain times. Like it's almost a little creepy. Right. And again, for me, there was a thing that we talked about, is that Her Wilderness to me is kind of like a fairy tale for adults, but it's kind of this idea of like fighting against expectations of who you're supposed to be, and then instead doing what you want to be and what you need to be. And so Riley's character for me is like the classical little girl lost in the woods fairy tale element, and all the other characters represent the other parts of those archetypes of the fairy tale. Like Morgana Shaw is like the wicked stepmother. We have like Prince Charming with the Midas touch, who's really kind of, but it's like we give the human element of all these archetypical fairy tale characters by making them flawed and real, but they're all kind of fulfilling these roles that they're expected to play.
I'm curious, this film also seems like a statement towards femininity and a part of, you know, being feminine, being a woman. How do you capture that so well? It's been a theme that we've seen in some of your movies before, seeing a different side of a reaction.
Sure.
This one we see different reactions that are all across the scale, and we do see that age difference go through, but with Riley it's exploration. You know, with Morgana it's much more reactionary. Like where the hell did this come from?
I wanted to tell a story. I know so many incredibly talented actresses, and you see so many movies where it's mostly about guys, and a lot of the movies I'd made up to my first feature film, Hold, they were all like male driven with hardly any females in them, and I was like, you know what, now I want to kind of do the other side and explore that other half. And I was lucky to work with a lot of very talented women who were able to like talk with the script about me, and we try to find this voice for the story that I wanted to tell and to do it appropriately, you know. And I was lucky that I had a team that really believed in it, you know.
It's crazy, you don't always see the people that work with the film like, we love working with this guy. But when I was talking to the actresses and everyone we've talked over the years with everyone, there seems to be this, you create an atmosphere on your set, and before that, you're an open director. What makes you want to do that way? Or I guess, what filmmakers have influenced you so much to make you that way?
I mean, you know, it's no coincidence we have John Cassavetes behind Ben here in this poster, but I've been a big fan of, you know, I like his movies and I like him as an actor, but the thing that has been a big influence for me about him as a filmmaker was that every time you read about all his sets, it was everybody hanging out. They'd shoot the movie, they'd try a scene, I'm like, let's take a break and play some basketball, and we'll talk about it, and then they come back like, you know what, let's make some spaghetti, and then they all make dinner together, and they all hang out, and then they go back to making the movie, and they may shoot till dawn, and then they all like have some drinks, and they go to bed, and there's this kind of like family atmosphere that I want my films to feel like summer camp, or, you know, a group of people that you trust, and by the end you feel like they're your friends, and you could trust them with anything else in the future, you know. And so for me, that's a filmmaker who, his way of working is more about garnering that kind of trust with your team members, you know.
You know, and let me also add, I think when you're dealing with creative people, there's different ways to get creativity. I think there's some famous directors who use the power of strength and I don't know, can be a little harsher. I haven't been on those, but I can just speak with working with Frank that when you're comfortable and when you're relaxed, you're more creative, you know. It's a way to get creativity out of people, you know, and he certainly did that, you know.
Thanks, man.
Well, to kind of look to the future, can you tell us what you're working on now? Has this inspired you to do?
I cannot tell you what I'm working on.
I know, Ben, it's serious.
But you know what? I will.
Is this an exclusive?
I'm currently
the first time exclusive.
I'm currently not working on any other movies right now. I'm wrapping up 2 records that I'm working on. So I'm back in my music world. You know, working with the hippies and all. So.
The fun crowd.
Yeah. They're just a little ADD, but they're fun.
There we go. I like it. That's the best way to end it, right
exactly.
there. Well, Frank, to kind of give you what's next. I mean,
sure.
You keep busier than anyone I know.
Man,
so.
I'm in post on a new short film I made. I wrote and directed called Spider Veins, and then I just finished a new feature-length script that I hope to start, if money permitting, start shooting by the end of next year. And then I've just been busy acting. I mean, really, that's been my thing that's been keeping me busy over the past couple years, and I'm thankful that I've gotten some good work. I'm about to go to San Francisco to act in a film called Americana. It's a murder mystery by the team that did a movie called Hide Your Smiling Faces. It's a really great group of filmmakers, good people, so I'm excited. But
what about you had John's film wrap up?
Yeah, I did a film called White Creek recently, and that has been playing the festival circuit. John Yost did a film. And then there's another film in post by Cameron Bruce Nelson called Some Beasts that got into the IFP lab. So hopefully that'll, go to festivals this next year, Fingers crossed, but, yeah.
Was there any way to keep track of you, Frank? I mean,
I'd say Facebook, as cliched as it is, Facebook and IMDb are probably the best ways. Just look me up on there. That's right. There you go, man.
All about that.
There you go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely.